Hey everybody, welcome back to Nerd News Today. I'm Matthew, and today we're taking a look at a figure from a fairly smaller toy manufacturer, but one of some pretty epic proportions. This ain't your typical action figure because this one comes with a side of bacon. Or I guess in this case, it actually is a side of bacon. So today, from PremiumDNA, we're taking a look at their Barnyard Commandos figures. Barnyard Commandos were a toy line back in the 90s that I was really into. I didn't own too many of them, unfortunately, but I thought they were the coolest thing ever. Between Barnyard Commandos and Food Fighters, they were like some of the weirdest things I had in my collection, and I still love them to this day, and I'm so excited that they're getting a modern figure revival. Now, we met the folks over at PremiumDNA during Toy Fair 2023, and I got to see some of their newer figures that are coming out later this year and into 2024, and I love everything that they're doing. I can't wait for the Earthworm Jim figures. I especially can't wait for some Battletoads. And coming up next, they're doing Clay Fighter and Mars Attacks and even Care Bears. So they're doing a lot of different figures here, and I'm very curious to see how their quality is going to be with something like Barnyard Commandos, because really there's nothing usual about this kind of figure. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute if you're not familiar with this line. But first things first, let's talk about this packaging here. And they kind of take a page out of Super 7's playbook with this really nice slipcover on top of the figure. And the fun thing about this is that it essentially does look like a barnyard. This is the front doors of a barn. It's really cute, a nice way to kind of throw back things, but also still keep it in modern times. Because the original figures were all on blister packs, this one here is a lot more collector friendly in a great big box. I just love the designs on this, and what's really fun about it too is you can just see, like, on the sides, there's all sorts of military paraphernalia along with farm tools. And there's just tons of little cute Easter eggs to see as you're looking through this, no matter what side of the box you're taking a peek at. But the action really begins, and you slide that slipcover gently off and toss it away, and there you're going to reveal the figure we're looking at today, which is Private Side-O Bacon. And now you can see what I'm talking about when I say that this is a very unique looking action figure, because this isn't a person, this is literally a farm animal, but armed to the teeth with all sorts of weapons. And the nice thing about PremiumDNA's figures is that you get an enormous window in the front that ensures you can see this guy from every possible nook and cranny, and that includes all of the accessories he comes with, because he's got some pretty cool ones here. The box also lets us know this features tactical farmticulation, which is a really great pun. I love that. And this box is full of puns. I mean, even the bottom says these guys are animals. I mean, no kidding, that's absolutely true. The sides of the boxes let us know who we're going to be dealing with as far as the factions with these toys. And on one side we have the Rams, which is the rebel army of militant sheep. And on the opposite side we have Porks, which is the platoon of rebel killer swine. So our Private Side-O Bacon is clearly a member of Porks. The back of the box really stands out. This looks really good. I like what they did here. Again, it's kind of taking that throwback element of the way the old action figures were, but updating it for modern collectors. So we get a wonderful bio card about him. It's almost like in a G.I. Joe style, and it's just filled with all sorts of really silly puns. You gotta let your inner kid enjoy this here, otherwise you're just gonna think this is like the dumbest thing you've ever seen, but really, it's a load of fun. And right below that, we also have a list of some of the other figures that are in this initial wave here. That includes Major Legger Mutton, Sergeant Woolly Pullover, and Corporal High on to Hog. So if you're still too slow to understand this, puns are kind of the language of Barnyard Commandos. And speaking of, right below that, there's really no other important information except for some of the credits for who the art team are who made this. Beyond that, it's just a whole load of trademarks and that kind of stuff. But really, I am happy that PremiumDNA does credit their art team and their sculptors and everything like that. And I think more toys should do that. But I think that's enough about the packaging. So let's go ahead now and unbox our Private Side-O Bacon. And let's take a look at him from all angles. All right, and here is our Private Side-O Bacon, and this is certainly a sight to see. These Barnyard Commandos are just some of the wildest looking toys I've ever owned, and PremiumDNA, they knew the homework assignment, they understood it, and they did a great job. Let me give you guys a quick rotation of this beast, and I'll give you guys my initial thoughts. And it's definitely a very one-of-a-kind type of action figure here. There's not much I can compare it to because of what it is, and because of the design of it. It's very bizarre, but in the best way possible. Now, if you're somebody who didn't grow up with Barnyard Commandos and has no idea what these things are and has zero nostalgic connection to them, you may not really be into them, but I think you could probably, at the very least, appreciate the artistry in them, because that is pretty darn amazing. And there's some interesting choices that they made here. They're not bad when I say the word interesting. I say interesting because, again, this figure is just so very much in a realm of its own that it's hard to even think of words to describe him. But we're going to try right now to figure that out. So first things first, let's go ahead and I'm actually going to take off this weapon that he has here. We're going to come back to it, but yes, in case you were wondering, this weapon piece does come off. And so I do want to put that back on a little bit later and go into more details about that. But for now, let's actually spend some time talking about the likeness of Private Side O'Bacon. So Private O'Bacon here is a giant pig, and I don't just mean that by his species, but according to his bio, he's kind of a messy boy, and that's why he's currently caked in all this very wet mud that's splattered all across his body. And yeah, so the face is really cool because it really is just like straight out of those original toys. I think this is like really capturing that perfect cartoonish look, and it's kind of a style that you don't really see with today's action figures. Now, keep in mind too, when they were doing Barnyard Commandos and Food Fighters, we were in like the early 90s sort of era of slime and gross out things, but we weren't in like the super deep realm of kind of hideous, disgusting just yet. We'll save that for Mad Balls coming up later on this channel. But yeah, this has like that perfect look straight out of the cartoons, which is exactly what I wanted to get with this guy here. So he's got really nice paint job. I love the little nose ring coming out of him as well. This is just, yeah, solid all around. Exactly what I was hoping to get with this character. I think I want to spend some time talking about the paint job on this guy as well, because it's, you know, for what it is kind of simple, but there's some nice details hiding in this piece here. So for the most part, he is very much a two-toned figure. You know, you've got this front section here, which is all just muddy and caked on mud as well, like we already said, very sloppy mud. And then underneath that is the pink pigskin, right? So not really a ton of nuance necessarily, but we do have the hooves that are painted in a shinier finish. You guys can see that here. So whereas the rest of the pig is for the most part kind of a very flat finish, his eyes and his hooves are a very glossy, very reflective paint. We do have some little detail like his military rank on that side of his body, and we also have it repeated on the opposite side. And beyond that, I mean, you know, we have his nose, which also actually has a little bit of a shine, I just realized right now. The ring is a different paint, but for the most part, it's a very much a two-tone piece here. But even then, there actually is some shading. There's some weathering detail in him. So, like, there's a little bit of a darker pink shade that goes across his legs over here and also on his tail. Not so much on his underside. Let's see. Actually, yeah, there's a little bit of it on his underside as well, so it's a little bit lighter on the bottom. So, you know, I wasn't actually expecting them to do that kind of level of paint job with him. I figured it would just be a flat tone and we're done, but there actually is a little bit more nuance to Private Side O'Bacon, and that's a welcome surprise. Very, very good to see that. So the paint job is really great, but let's spend some time talking about what I think might be one of the weirdest things about this figure, and that's the articulation, because he is very articulated, but I do ask the question, with a character like Private Side O'Bacon, what's the point? But again, you know, if you're collecting more of these, then it's going to work out just fine. And it's always welcome to have articulation. It's just odd with this figure because it's a giant pig guy. But so yeah, let's see how this thing works here. And he is very stiff out of the box, but we do have a head that can rotate. It's not ball jointed. It doesn't appear to be, or if it is, I mean, it really can't do much, but it does rotate. It's just a little resistant because it's straight out of the box, but you can see the more I'm playing with it, the more it's loosening. But really, I do suggest for the toy at this price point, you really should blast it with a hairdryer before doing anything like I'm doing today. So he also has ball-jointed shoulders, which, again, very stiff, but they are moving, so they're not completely inoperable here. We also have a single joint for, I don't even know what to call this. Like, I want to say it's an elbow joint, but it's not because it's a pig. But there is a joint over here, and it does kind of rotate, but it's not going to really do much as far as movement. I don't really know how useful it is. The hooves are also independently moving of that section, so that's cool. The piggy's torso does have movement, so that's good. So he actually can do some rotating with that area. And his hind legs also rotate. They have a ball joint there, but there's not really a great range of motion because, you know, he's got this big, large back section here. Doesn't really move a ton. And likewise, his very hind section does move as well, and it can rotate, so as does the back hooves. So that's basically it for articulation. It's, quite honestly, a lot more than I expected with a character like this. Because keep in mind, the originals, they barely had any articulation, so this is a massive upgrade over that. It almost feels like the articulation is kind of just there to show off more than actually be functional, but it does have some purposes, even if it's not like the most exciting or most superbly functional articulation. All right, so let's talk about now what he came with that you saw already earlier in this video, and that would be his weapon. This right here is the 450-degree lamb roast flamethrower, and it is a giant back-mounted flamethrower that attaches via this peg you can see right where my fingers are. And we already know that it attaches really well in there, but I just wanted to show you guys how it looks straight up. And it's also really nice. It's got some, again, really great paint job on this guy, you know, especially this weapon here. The paint is outstanding. There actually is some kind of like rust all around it. It's not just one tone, but there actually is a rusty paint all across it. Even the tubes have a little bit of weathering on there. So it's really got some good, outstanding detail on it. The metal is shiny as well. And it actually has a pretty good amount of heft to it. You know, as far as like which one weighs more, the figure or the weapon, a little hard to say. So, but yeah, it's a perfect fit. And in addition to that, he comes with a few other things. And among that is not one, but two different glasses here that are going to attach to that flamethrower. And those will protect his eyes while he's busy roasting some lambs. So that's going to attach through a slot that's right on the top of the flamethrower here. And we slide it into place. And there we go. And now we're just going to go ahead and go back to our pig, match up the peg holes and slide it in. Does not take much at all, and just like that, he's now ready for combat. And that's how he's going to look with those glasses on. And these other glasses here, I don't really feel like testing them out, but you basically get the idea of how they're going to look. I mean, this is going to be darker. So personally, I would prefer to have the shades that actually do have the ability to show his eyes coming through it there. And there we go. So that's good to go. He's ready for some action right now and looking very nice. And that is in there very secure too. It's not going to fall out anytime soon. It's surprisingly secure when you consider how this figure looks. Now, in addition to the giant weapon we have there, we have one other accessory, and that's this hay bale here. This very nice looking hay bale, which again has some very nice details to it. And this is painted really nicely. I have it actually on, it should be like this, but yeah, it's actually got some really good looking paint detail there. It's got some barbed wire. Unfortunately, some of the paint does start to slop a little bit around the barbed wire, but that's going to ultimately be how you have this figure anyway. Here's a better look of just the hay bale itself so you can see what I mean. But it does hold flat. This is the flat side, the non-public side, if you will. But even that looks still very nice. It's kind of painted a little bit differently just to make sure that you know this is not meant to be the top part that's showing, which is this. So it holds very flat, and it's kind of nice because it's meant to almost be like, you know, how the military would have their sandbags in combat. Well, Barnyard Commandos have hay bales. So there you go, a nice little accessory, and I assume there's more things like that. There's more pieces of cover throughout the entire Barnyard Commando series, or at least I would hope there are, because this one's actually a lot of fun, and it adds a good amount of character to this toy line. All right, let's do a few figure comparisons right now. I don't really know how to do this, but we're going to try and I guess maybe figure out what scale he is. I suspect he's meant to be a 1/6 scale. I suspect he's meant to be a 1/12 scale figure, but, you know, it's hard to say with these Barnyard Commandos. So just right on his back foot, I'm going to put this very recent Mattel WWE Legends Ultimate Warrior figure. And then I've also got a G.I. Joe Classified Outback figure. So, you know, it's kind of fun. He actually does not look too terrible with the G.I. Joe, all things considered. It actually kind of works. I'll give him that. It kind of does work. But all right, that's those two guys. I just want to show you two other figures as well. Let's try out a Marvel Legends Emma Frost figure. And just for good measure, I have this from the Nacelle company. This is Sectars, and this is Stellara. This is her first ever figure ever from the Sectars line. And there's a review all about her as well on this channel, so do check that out. But yeah, for the most part, I guess it's meant to be a kind of 1/12 scale figure, more or less, yeah. I mean, because if I actually stand him up on his butt, you might be able to see a little bit better. But he's, you know, not quite there, but, you know, if you had him on his hind legs, yeah, he'd be there. So I'm going to say, as far as, like, fitting into scales, he's very close to being nicely fitting into that 6-inch scale figure range. So final thoughts on this really unique, interesting Barnyard Commando figure. You know, it's pretty cool. It's very out there, and I think it's the kind of figure that, you know, is not necessarily for everybody out there, because a lot of folks just simply aren't going to get it. So if you do get it, you're going to love this thing. You're going to love all the puns. You're going to appreciate the weapon and how outlandishly big it is and just how silly this whole thing is, but also really how nicely executed PremiumDNA has done these figures. This is my very first PremiumDNA action figure, and I think it's really cool. I am kind of disappointed that for the type of figure it is, I don't really get to explore how well the articulation works and how well they do it, but I think the paint job is really good. I think the weapons especially are very indicative of how their toys are going to be looking across the line, and they really have a nice way of capturing the spirit of the different franchises that they're working with. And it really has me excited to check out a few of their other figures as well. Like, I personally would really want to get Sergeant Wooly Pullover if I can find him. Or even the Legger Mutton, you know, like there's some really cool stuff here. And I know that for a fact, because we saw it at Toy Fair, there are going to be some more Barnyard Commandos coming soon. So if you're into this, definitely stay tuned, follow them on their social media channels, and stick around to see what they're going to be doing next in this line. Now, if you want to pick up this Private Side of Bacon or any of the other Barnyard Commandos, this figure and most other PremiumDNA toys are available from your typical major online retailers, and that includes places like Entertainment Earth, Big Bad Toy Store, and a bunch of others out there. But I do want to recommend that you visit NacelleStore.com if you want to pick this up. NacelleStore.com is the home of the Nacelle Company and their toy line as well, and they're also one of the distributors for PremiumDNA's lines of figures. So whether you want to pick up any PremiumDNA items, be it their Mad Balls figures or the Barnyard Commandos or the upcoming Earthworm Jim things and Battletoad toys, you can also go there to pick up some of Nacelle Company's figures, and that includes licenses like their Legends of Laughter series, as well as the revived Sectors franchise, and coming very soon, Biker Mice from Mars. So visit NacelleStore.com to place your order today. So that's our look at the Barnyard Commandos figure of Private Side O Bacon, coming to us courtesy of PremiumDNA figures. So yeah, we think he's pretty cool, and I hope you do too. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time with more action figure reviews, statue unboxings, and everything else we do here on the channel.